So, we are going to look into it. We may think that it's just the ruling, or we think that it's just, another thing that happens coming out of the Kenyan courts. But is it precedent setting in one direction or another? Sometimes we talk about precedent setting and we think that it is only the guide for what we should do. But precedent setting also is a guide for the things that we should not do. Constitutionalism versus options. Gachagua's case is what we're talking about this morning. Eric Morioki is an advocate and he's with us in the hot seat of the situation. Good morning.
Good morning.
Wakili. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be back here.
Welcome to the hot seat. It's been a minute, but
Yes.
we're glad that you were able to join us this morning.
Yes, it's been a minute, but I'm happy to be back.
Thank you so much. The political risk analyst is Dismas Mokua. He insists that we use that demonstrative article, so we're here with it anyway. Good morning, Dismas. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We'll look into some of the things that come out. And the court of public opinion, though it may not hold any stamp in terms of constitutionalism, is very important when it comes to how things are perceived. So we'll bring that aspect into this conversation as well. Before we do that, Dennis this week has taken us to Guinea.
Yes, country that is rich in bauxite. Very important in the construction of processing of aluminum. Americans call it aluminum. The Brits call it aluminium. Depends with which one you choose.
And the Kisi say aluminum.
Aluminum. It is understood.
So I think that is superior.
And it's done with it's done with soprano aluminum. But then again, they're also rich in oil, gold, and diamond. But let's go to the proverb. When a mother has twins, she must sleep on her back. When a mother has twins, she must sleep on her back. Wakili, how would you interpret it? You're in the business of interpretation.
Wow. First time I'm hearing such a saying, but probably it means that if you have a lot of responsibility, you must be watchful. You must be very careful. You must be always alert. You see, when you're on your back, you're ready to spring to action. Regardless of the shortness of the notice.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how I interpret it.
Shortness of the notice. The political analyst, how would you interpret it?
I would analyze that. I would rather interpret it that it actually talks about equity and equality. That if you've got twins and you've got a bread, it must be, and the bread has got 10 slices. Let's move kind of 5 slices up and 5 slices up. You can't afford to do 6-4. It has to be 50-50.
50-50.
Yeah.
Well said, well interpreted.
Indeed.
Asante sana.
So everybody's got their knickers in a little bit of a twist, especially the judge, especially the lawyers. And we've seen for the first time maybe this year that lawyers across board have come together and their minds are set that there was something that was a little bit amiss and that perhaps something is stinking in the land of Denmark, whereby they're saying, hold on a minute, by your own admission, you said that a part of the constitution has been abrogated, but rather than fix it, we're going to throw some money at it. Does that really kind of sum it up, Eric?
Actually, it does. And the reason why, like you said, lawyers have got their whatever's in a band is because we start from Article 2, Sub-Article 4 of the Constitution, which declares that any action or omission that is done in contravention with the Constitution is invalid. Then, from there we go to Article 25, which gives us the non-derogable rights. And that article, in its own language, elevates those 4 rights against every other provision in the Constitution. Because it says, despite, let me just read it verbatim, despite any other provision in this Constitution, the following rights and fundamental freedoms shall not be limited. So already Article 25 is putting these 4 rights in a place where they are first among equals, because constitutional provisions should be read together. And one of those rights is the right to fair trial. The right to fair trial is fundamental. It goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden. When the all-knowing, all-powerful God came and saw what had happened in the garden, he didn't say, I know. He didn't say, I can see. He asked,
What did you do?
and why?
Yeah.
Explain yourself.
Yeah.
And that's when Adam said it's a woman, the woman said it's a snake, all that. That tells you that this right is not capable of being separated from our existence.
So you have a right to then explain the why. You should be given the right to say, this is what happened on your own account.
Yes, and that's where now I'm bringing it home.
Okay.
With regard to the Gachagua case.
All right.
You say on one hand that this person was not given this right that we have seen. It's so fundamental. They were not heard. Then you say that regardless, the result of that procedure stands. That is a problem. The right is non-derogable.
And if you say non-derogable in
Non-derogable.
English, what does that mean?
Okay. Non-derogable means the Constitution itself has said this right cannot be limited
Right.
under any circumstances. Whether the heavens fall, whether there is earthquakes and sulfur and brimfire, this right cannot be abrogated. And that is why there is a problem with that judgment, because the moment you found that fair hearing rights have been violated, then you do not have any options to negotiate in that judgment. What you need to do is set that thing aside. And the reason is because if this person had been given their fair hearing rights, perhaps the decision maker could have changed their mind. That is one of the reasons, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, sorry. So there's something that may have happened or may have been said and or presented in a certain manner that may have swayed the presiding entity, in this case, the Senate, that would have changed the outcome of those proceedings. So in the event that you denied this person that opportunity, then you've kind of nailed the coffin, essentially.
Exactly.
Ah, right.
That is exactly right.
Okay.
That is exactly right.
Okay.
The political risk analyst.
Yes.
In all these that we see now, the law is very clear for everyone to read and understand, right? But then again, there are decisions that have been made by the court. What political implications does this then have to the political players that we see today as we approach 2027?
Well, Eric has captured
Especially to Rigathi Gachagua.
Yes, Eric has captured the legal perspective very well. And we saw what was happening at the National Assembly and Senate. So whether you talk about fair trial, and some lawyers are saying that, in fact, that was not a criminal process. So when you talk about fair trial, it may not be neither here nor there. When one saw the members of the National Assembly and Senate, they had taken a conclusion. Right from the word go, they knew how they were going to vote. And I think they were just going through the process that you need to tick the first box, yes. Public participation, yes. Already they had taken a decision. Even if you had given Rigiji another 6 months or 1 year, I think they would have arrived at the same decision. And there's a highly regarded lady who was in this studio, who sat probably one of these seats, the Chief Justice, who said that an impeachment is an impeachment till it has been lifted by a court. And because it has not been lifted by a court, then it means probability of Mr. Rigathi Gachagua running for political office is almost zero. And lawyers have spoken about it many times. But at the spirit, although some lawyers again say there's no spirit, but the spirit of Chapter 6 and Article 10 is that it's supposed to be black or white, that you've been impeached or you have not been impeached. So that is why some of the conversations we saw yesterday can be described as fraudulent political posturing. When somebody who has been impeached insists that is going to run for a political office, yet lawyers would say, again, there are many opinions, as there are many, as there are grains of sand up in the ocean, as to whether or not he can actually run. But it would be very good if the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court can actually pronounce itself with finality. And if that happens, then people will have a very good understanding on his political future. But looking at it from a political perspective, probability of him running for office, at least next year, is almost zero. So, from the guys in the United Opposition, if they're looking for a candidate, there are only two viable alternatives, Dr. Kalonzo Musyoka and Dr. Fred Matiang'i. So if people are going to a room to come up with a method of selecting somebody from the United Opposition,
you're basically saying don't use
choices.
Gachagua as an option.
Well, Gachagua is going to be, or is going to position himself as a kingmaker, and you have to give him the young people normally say flowers.
Flowers, yeah.
You have to give him a pat on the back that he has managed through various tricks, misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, to beat up everybody in Mount Kenya. That if you go against the grain, immediately says, wait a minute, no, you've become a traitor. You are not aligned with community interest. Because Mount Kenya has got somebody like J.B. Muturi, has got Munya, has got Mwangi Kiunjuri, people who can come up. In fact, the only person right now in Mount Kenya who can take Mr. Rigathi Gachagua head-on is a former President Kenyatta. And you remember when...
but to do what?
When Mr. Rigathi Gachagua was deputy president and there were demonstrations, you recall he's the person who used to go to the office early in the morning and give Kenyans warning. And then there's the little matter over the theft of assets belonging to President Kenyatta. Now you're asking what? Anybody who has served as a president wants to maintain strong political capital so that you don't...
Some people.
Yeah, most of them. So that you don't interfere with their... after they leave office. But here in Kenya, as it is for President Kenyatta, it matters not who is going to be president after next year, because his political interests, commercial interests, and economic interests are well secured. In fact, out of everybody in the political class, I think the person who sleeps easy is President Kenyatta. Yeah, he doesn't care who becomes president, because for him the worst which would have happened was President Ruto, President Matiang'i,
Oh, careful.
Okay.
Sorry, I meant to say presidential candidate Matiang'i or presidential candidate Kalonzo. I mean, Kenyatta is in Jubilee, so his preferred presidential candidate from Jubilee is Matiang'i. And then he's the head of Azimio. His candidate is Kalonzo Musyoka. So whichever way the opposition decides to dance is at home.
Okay. I want to understand something, because indeed when the Chief Justice sat in that seat, she said that these things are final. But then the law, which everybody says is so clear, but in some instances, Eric, it's as clear as mud.
I disagree with you, because
in some instances,
it's never clear.
It's clear as mud. Because first you say the thing is final, but then on the other hand, you say until all avenues of appeal have been exhausted.
Yes.
So which is it? Because you can say that the final nail in the coffin has been delivered, but then you also have the auspices of the appellate court, who can then sit on a matter and actually be in a position to lift the thing. So is the what?
So when the Chief Justice sat here and spoke, she was expressing her opinion on what should happen when an impeachment has been confirmed by the Senate.
She also spoke in reference to a sentence, even when a court case has been expended and the sentence has been given. That was actually what she referred to. When a sentence has been given, she says it is final, you go start serving your sentence. But people have appealed on, people have even gone back and been elected as members of parliament after having been sentenced by a court.
Exactly. So she drew similarities between the sentence situation and the impeachment situation. What we have right now, the situation that we have right now came about in 2017 from the Karungo Thangwa case.
Yeah.
There's a senator from Kiambu called Karungo Thangwa, used to be a CEC member. He was impeached. He wanted to vie for Senate.
Yes.
IEBC refused to clear him. He went to court. He went to the High Court, said that he has the right to vie as long as he has not exhausted the mechanisms of appeal. That is in accordance to Article 99(3) and Article 193 as well. So when the High Court pronounced itself and said that indeed you have not exhausted your mechanisms of appeal and so you can vie, we got stuck with that. When the Chief Justice sat here several years later, she was giving her opinion on what should be, how things should be, not how they are right now.
So it's not the law?
Right now, the law is you can vie. As long as you have a pending appeal, you can go and contest, because
so
that is what the High Court said.
That a conviction and a sentence is final?
That is not what we have right now. Yeah. That is what we should have. And let me just explain,
please.
Very shortly. The Chief Justice was saying that an impeachment is basically a disqualifier. You don't fit the character of a leader that we want to have, according to Chapter 6 of the Constitution, leadership and integrity. And because you've been found to have violated this law or to have lacked integrity in this other way, you stand aside until you can clear yourself from that is where we should that is where we should go. That is the direction we should be headed towards. But where we are right now, an impeached person, even Rigiji, can still contest as long as the appeal is pending. Now, luckily, the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, are going to have an opportunity finally to pronounce themselves on this issue, because there are two very important impeachments that have happened that will find themselves there. That is the Kawira Mwangaza impeachment from Meru, which I was part of, and this Rigiji impeachment, which I was also part of at the Senate, but not at the court level. So the courts will have an opportunity to finally settle this law, so that someone who has been impeached, your character is questionable, your integrity is not, is not there. You should not vie until that impeachment is overturned by a court. And specifically, even when impeachments are overturned by courts, they are overturned on the issue of process, not on the issue of substance. That is a good reason why someone who has been impeached should not be allowed anywhere near the ballot. But we have not gotten there. We are going there. Yes.
That means, Wakili, as we speak today, regarding Gachagua and everything he's doing he's doing it rightfully so, because then the law allows him to pretty much run for president of the republic, to occupy any office in the land, because he's not exhausted all the appeal mechanisms.
Yes, right now, that is, yes, as we speak, that is what it means. He can vie. Whether he can win, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But legally speaking, he is allowed to vie, because the final courts have not pronounced themselves on this issue. They have not said that impeachment is a bit different from the other things that you could be accused of.
But he must activate this process by bringing it before the appellate court, isn't it? He must file an appeal to this judgment that was given on Monday, because he cannot just sit and say, okay, well, I can go. He must bring it. And that is how you now activate it being under appeal, isn't it?
Exactly.
Okay.
And in fact, you've identified another very cogent reason why the law is moving towards this side that the Chief Justice spoke about, as opposed to the Karungo Thangwa situation. It's because if I know I was impeached, and I was impeached validly, all the people voted, all the senators said that I should go home, and I want to contest for a political office, what do? I take this case to court, and I park it there for years and years. I just, whenever it comes up for hearing, I have another application. I want this judge to go, or I want this other person to do that. So that provision, that Karungo Thangwa situation that the High Court left us with in 2022, gives people the perverse incentive to park matters in courts, so that you can be allowed to vie because you have a pending appeal. But yes, he must activate that protection, quote unquote, by filing an appeal.
Okay.
So the impeachment process is more of a political process and a legal process at the same time. Now, when you talk about this process taking place in the National Assembly and the Senate, and now the judges having a problem with the process at the Senate, What does this then inform to the holders of those offices in terms of adhering to the rules of the game and ensuring that the entire process is actually followed?
Well, in my view, the Senate was faulted for not going through the entire process. But in my view, that is merely a technicality. Because whichever way you look at it, whether they would have ticked every box with a red pen, with a black one, with a green one, the outcome would have still been the same. Because these members of the National Assembly and Senate say they were mobilized, that they were given capacity and they were given reasons to go and vote in a particular way. And all they were doing was actually press-ups, just waiting for the time to come and vote. I mean, when you are paying attention to them, some of them were actually almost sleeping, others were yawning. They were just waiting to cast their ballots. And because it's a political process, it was a political decision. They were merely going through ticking boxes, going through the motions. And as Wakil has indicated, these impeachments, if you look at it maybe from a commercial perspective, it's like you've been declared bankrupt. You cannot trade, you cannot do many things. So, essentially, Mr. Rigiji has been declared politically bankrupt. There's nothing else he can do. If I were him, I will go back and strengthen my position as a kingmaker so that I can influence the political space from Kenya.
But that as well speaks to the fact that the political process that took place, it's not because individuals sat down to interrogate the matter that was before them. It's simply because they were given an order from another office, from another person to go through with the process. That therefore means that Rigiji went through a process that was initiated by somebody else, and those who were charged to try him to go through the process did not really care what was before him.
I'm not sure what Eric would say, but my understanding is, basic understanding of impeachment is actually a vote of confidence or no confidence in a politician. I mean, you've seen the way governors have been taken around small circles. So even for Mr. Rigathi Gachagua, despite his brand of toxic politics that every Kenyan knows and accepts, selling shares, selling shares. I mean, you see from my part of Kenya, wherever Mr. Rigathi Gachagua speaks, I ask myself, was he actually my deputy president? And does he speak for my interest? Wherever issues are being discussed that do not affect the mountain, he's very quiet. But if the issues are elsewhere, especially around equity and equality, it starts to raise eyebrows. So, and I think we've got an ethical responsibility to point out these issues, especially if you want to put together a cohesive nation called Kenya.
What are the issues, Dismas?
The issues are that every Kenyan, and Eric is going to point out where it's captured in the Constitution, we deserve to be treated in a manner that reflects equity and equality.
Okay.
And we must go the extra mile to reverse what was created by sessional paper number 10, where some places in Kenya were declared productive and others were declared non-productive.
Okay, so
and
one of the issues that you're talking about is that Kenya must foster a position of equity and equality.
Yeah, and all leaders must subscribe to that philosophy of equity and equality. When you depart from that philosophy of equity and equality, in my view, that should be a reason for impeachment. Because, and I keep on asking this, and I'm going to ask this till the cows come home, and this is a question I'm going to pose to Eric. I'll ask you to name for me the 3 top public hospitals and their location. Then after that, you name the 3 top schools for boys and their location, and the 3 top girls' school and their location. If you really want to understand that there is no equity and equality for a long time in Kenya in distribution of national resources.
Is this one of those things where you're asking a question and you know the answer? Because you might as well tell us where those are so that we can move the conversation along.
Okay, let's start with the hospitals. Let's start with the hospitals.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're talking about the top 3 public hospitals in Kenya, you'll talk about KNH, you'll talk about Kenyatta University Teaching Research. It's got a very long name. And you'll talk about MTRH in Eldoret. If you're talking about the top boys' schools, you'll talk about Alliance, and then you'll talk about Mangu, and you may talk about Lenana. If you're talking about girls, again, you may talk about Alliance, then you may... So, you can see because of that session of paper number 10, there's no national school in my village. So what happens? Before we got this new road, I speak as a Kisii man, before we got the new road, Narok, if you're to bring a patient from Kisii to Kenesh, it will take you 10 hours. Halfway the trip, the patient will be long dead. That is why we must subscribe to equity and equality in distribution of national resources. And any leader, it doesn't matter whether you're in UDA, whether you're in DCP, whether you don't have a political party, you must respect that. You see, a few days ago, when people went to Wajir for National Day celebrations, guys were asking, wait a minute, do they have sufficient water for you to take a National Day celebration in that part of the world? A few days ago, when they went to Kisii, people were complaining, what the hell, why are you taking this thing to Kisii? But if you go to Kisii, when President Kenyatta had a National Day celebration, people saw roads being done, there was power, there's everything else. So let's distribute this our cake in a manner that reflects equity, equality, and run away from fraudulent political posturing.
Is there anybody that cannot be accused of political posturing today that's fraudulent in nature? Anybody?
That's what I'm saying, that we must run away, and I've said that it's our ethical responsibility. When you've got this unique opportunity that we have been given by Kenyans, we must discuss this till the cows come home, till we start irritating those politicians who think otherwise.
I mean, Wakili, I want to look at the system, right? I want to look at the system in terms of how that then forms the future of a country that we want to be in.
Yes.
Rigathi Gachagua went through a process that the court itself has admitted was unlawful. It is not us. It is the court that has admitted that process was unlawful. And you read that together with the fact that in 2017, the elections were nullified because of the process did not meet the threshold that was required. Now, if we're talking about any impeachment that is to follow, if members of parliament both at the Senate and the National Assembly are given an impeachment motion and they do not care the substance of that motion and proceed to vote for an individual to leave without really understanding the nitty-gritties of that, what exactly are we doing to the rule of law, the Constitution, and ensuring that we live in a country where the Constitution is sacrosanct, is respected by all and sundry?
Thank you, Dennis. And let me take it slightly back to where Mokua had started. Impeachment is a very interesting concept. It is, let me just loosely say that it is political in substance, but legal in process.
Yes.
And that is just lightly saying it because, of course, there are legal issues even in substance and all that. But the court held correctly that it can only do a process review, not a merit review. The reason why you have those safeguards of supermajority twice is to ensure that that power to impeach is not abused.
And also the threshold.
But that is the supermajority threshold. That is the 2/3. But then again, if we are saying, if the court tells us that we can only intervene to audit the process and check that the process was complied with, and they do that audit and find that there was an issue with the process, but then they don't, do anything meaningful about it, the message that sends is that, you can do whatever you want to accomplish, and then even breach rights in the process, we will find a way to justify it. The more correct course of action, in my opinion, would have been for the court to invalidate this entire thing. And we have a saying, I won't say it in Latin, I'll just say it in English, let justice be done, though the heavens may fall. Because if we continue to make these allowances, these small allowances for the Constitution to be violated, very soon we are going to end up in a position where nobody cares, nobody respects the Constitution, everybody does whatever they want because they know they can. They can. At least right now, there are some things that that cannot be done. Okay. But we are starting on a very slippery slope. And the man who sat here before us, former Chief Justice Maraga, he actually did something when it was his tenure. He nullified a presidential election, which was the first time it had happened in the whole of Africa. Yeah. And on top of that, he advised the president to dissolve parliament. Those are the kinds of judicially courageous actions that are needed to protect the Constitution, to ensure that, because what essentially the court said is you can violate someone's rights in a process important as this, and then pay him, pay this person. That is fundamentally flawed. It is so wrong, because this person has to live with the consequences of impeachment. If the two other courts do not overturn this person will have to live with the consequences of impeachment, which means he can never hold public office. Yet the process that got him there, somehow violated his rights. And I do understand that, of course, we don't live in a vacuum, because the other side of the argument, is also worth looking at. The courts were saying, this guy was impeached, fine, his rights were violated, but some things have been done from that moment in time up to now, which are not easy to undo. Quashing that impeachment would have meant automatically, whether Rigathi Gachagua asked for it in his pleadings or not, would have meant that we go to the status that was there before he was impeached, and that is him being the deputy president and Professor Kindiki being out of office.
But Okili, where the law exists and the law is clear, an abrogation of the law existed, that means where we sit today, the hold of that office is there illegally. If I am to interpret that ruling as a settle, because the process did not follow the law. Therefore, whoever holds that office today is as a result of an illegality that happened.
And that is why the court found itself doing some gymnastics. It had to do this gymnastics, because how else would it justify saying that there was a flaw in the process, this person was not heard, but we are not. So they had to do this kind of gymnastics to try and balance things to ensure. And of course, judgments that come over political matters like these ones, they will never make people happy. Rarely. They will not make, at least some factions will be very, very unhappy with them. But you also have to understand those judges. And I'm not saying that they did the right thing. I'm just trying to try and understand what might have been the thinking, what might have been the philosophy. And the philosophy was consequences. If we undo this process of this person who was already appointed into the office and return this other one, what kind of anarchy will we throw the country into? Realistically speaking, if Rigathi Gachagua was reinstated as a deputy president through court, how would he work with Ruto? After 2 years of trading insults, barbs, all those things, how would they work? Because a president and a deputy are actually supposed to work, sort of like in a marriage, supposed to work complementing each other, holding each other's fort when one is not there.
So this is interesting. I guess you could also weigh in here as well. Because the court's decision to say is final, except when you have like the appellate court and then the Supreme Court, which is the apex court after that. So would it have been so painful for them to just give a ruling and say that with all the evidence found, etc., we have decided to uphold the impeachment? Because what you've done by then saying that you have found this discrepancy here and there is that you have opened the door for all the vermin to fly into the house. You have basically said that, yes, we realize and we understand that something else could have been done, but we're going to throw some 50 million shillings at it to get you to keep quiet in that corner. While we understand that judicial officers have a duty of care to take into consideration the political atmosphere and to take into consideration the everything that could possibly happen, I'm not a judge or a lawyer, but it just seemed like a rookie move to then tell people that you see the mistake that has been made, but you're not going to do anything about it. It doesn't matter who it was. It could have been Rigathi Gachagua, it could have been your pet dog. It doesn't matter that you pronounced yourself having seen a mistake, but that you're going to throw money at it. Now, what it does, if we look politically, is that it kind of buffers what is in the public arena, that you can throw money at something to solve an issue when we don't want to address the matter at hand, beyond Rigathi Gachagua, other things. Do you see that seeping into the politics of the day?
Yeah, Mr. Rigathi Gachagua and his lawyer said that it's not about the money, 50 million bob. Then I rolled my eyes. I said, it's not about the money. However, one of the things that he had wanted is to find out whether they can be treated as a retired deputy president. So that he falls in the category of Chief Justice Maraga, the speakers, and the benefits that accrue to that. So,
I don't know. I think they were bragging rights for him.
Yeah, of course it's about money.
Nowhere he wouldn't be able to step in the country if, for example, you say that the impeachment has been overturned. My God, there's feathers in a peacock's bush.
And the kind of things he was asking for include access to the VIP lounge.
And I think what the ECO did is, during Sunday school, we were told about something called purgatory. I think they placed him in Palystore, purgatory, so that he doesn't know whether he's moving left, whether he's moving right, and maybe they're assisting him to manage expectations so that he can go to the Court of Appeal and eventually go to the Supreme Court. But in my view, I don't know why Kenyans are very keen on what Dent has been saying, that the law is very clear. There's a senior attorney general, one of your seniors, who said that the law is never clear, because if it was clear, then we will not need lawyers and judges and magistrates. So it's important for Mr. Rigathi Gachagua and his lawyers. I hope they are filed so that we can get something coming from the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court, so that then people respect this thing called impeachment. While lawyers and the judiciary will review the process, majority of politicians will be interested in content, because there are so many impeachment motions we've seen at the Senate. And on the face of it, these gentlemen are stolen Mura's chicken. These gentlemen are stolen Alima's chicken. But those senators vote in a particular way, or on account of a technicality, somebody is set away free. So in my view, we must, and again, what the Court of Appeal, the High Court indicated, let them come up with that legal framework. I don't know whether it's an act of parliament, so that this impeachment can actually serve Mura's interest. Because impeachment was never meant to be a trial, a criminal trial.
Plus, I don't think that this particular impeachment had anything to do with the Kenyan people.
Yep.
This particular one.
Well, we are told that it was an account of being shareholders. It's an account of asking people from your village to come and kiss your ring. We were given many reasons.
Let's give it a name: divorce proceeding.
Yeah, okay. And nobody wants to see how this sausage is being manufactured. People wanted to see the outcome, the results. So, if for some reason Eric and I come from the same village and we decide to run for governor, and he's my running mate, but upon assuming office, he starts threatening my position as the governor for my county, I should find it in my interest to kick him out. He needs to remain loyal for 10 years. Or when I find him, ameanza kunichimba kule kwa ofisi, having nocturnal meetings with my CECs, chief officers, I will kick him out. So let's make it very easy to have all these things taking place. However, as I've said times above number, and I may be stepping on somebody's toes, any leader in Kenya who doesn't respect equity and equality should be a candidate for impeachment, because you've been elected to preside
you just
over.
ruled out a greater percentage of the leaders.
You've been elected to preside over allocation of national resources. Why should somebody in Mosocho suffer on account of a leader who wants a lion's share of the taxpayers' resources to go to his village and not Mosocho? Those are candidates for impeachment. And as I keep on repeating, if we do not place a huge premium on meritocracy, character, competence, and capacity, these lawyers like Eric will have a lot of work around these impeachment motions, because you said he participated in a number of impeachments, so he'll be having a lot of work. Let's have a very clear legal framework so that every Kenyan, whether you are born here or not, you feel that leaders respect you.
Eric, is it that we don't have a legal framework, or the legal framework that currently does exist has been reduced to be just another piece of paper, just another phrase that does exist? Because when you talk about impeachment, there are things that you must fulfill, whether it is for a governor. There are things that must go through for that to qualify to be an impeachment. So is it absence of legal framework, or implementation of this framework as envisaged by the Constitution?
Thank you, Dennis. And impeachment at its core is always going to be a political issue.
Yes.
The process of getting there is what the law is here to look at. And currently the framework that we have, I mean, it's sufficient. It has gotten a few governors out of office, a whole deputy president. Of course, the impeachment is subject to, but of course there are some problems. There are some rough surfaces that need to be sanded down. For example, the Senate, if you had the opinion of Justice Murima, the Senate conflated the two avenues of impeachment. It gives itself an avenue that it calls plenary, which does not exist in the Constitution. Because, like Justice Murima said, once it has looked at that motion and decided to admit it, then it must form a committee. So we need laws, a framework to make certain things clearer. But that does not mean that that lack of framework, has affected things in any way right now as it is. Impeachment at its core is political, and that is why someone is impeached by a group, a majority of their peers. When you look at the qualifications to become president, they are the same as the qualification to become deputy president. Yes. And they are the same as the qualification to become a member of parliament. So basically impeachment is your political peers, telling you that you have behaved in a manner that is so wayward that we cannot continue living with you. We have to get rid of you. That is why governors are impeached by MCAs. What are the qualifications for election of a governor? Same as the qualifications for MCA, of course, apart from the degree issue because of resources and all that. Yeah. Yes.
What dangers lie in these impeachments then being weaponized? And I believe that it was your co-counsel, Elisha Ngoya, who talked about this, especially during the case of Kawira Mwangaza, whereby it was that this is going to be weaponized politically to throw at somebody that may do something that doesn't benefit me. You see now, it's not about representation of the people anymore, but it's people coalescing around an idea where we are not getting a piece of the pie. So how about we use this thing that is lawful called impeachment to teach you a lesson? How do you run away from the danger of weaponizing this impeachment, which is a lawful procedure to remove somebody who is not abiding by the things you mentioned?
Yes. So one of the ways to prevent that from happening is by having a very strict judiciary that audits the process and ensures that every single step is followed, and makes it very, very, very expensive to not follow any step in the process or to miss any step in the process. That is what at least the Constitution promises. But as to the merits of this impeachment, whether this person actually did something that is objectively wrong or not, that is always going to be a political question. Even in countries like the US, which are more than 300 years old as democracies, impeachment is still profoundly political. President Trump has been impeached, I think, twice.
Times above
by the House of Representatives.
Bill Clinton,
yes,
Monica Lewinsky.
Several people. But the safeguards that we should have are on the process. In this play called A Man for All Seasons, someone asks Sir Thomas More, whether he would give the devil the benefit of the law. And he says, yes, I would. For my own sake, when the devil turns around and starts coming after me, I want to have those safeguards there. And that is precisely the problem with this judgment. Like Ndu said, had the justices found that there was no violation, we wouldn't be having everybody having their whatever's in a bunch, like you said at the start. But once you found that there was a violation, but then you don't cure that violation in the way that you're supposed to, making the process expensive even means telling the Senate, you did this wrong, you didn't hear this man, go back and rehear this impeachment issue. Okay, it means even fining individual senators who refuse to vote to allow the adjournment, and it means of course giving damages that are way more than 50 million to send a message that yes, we know it's a political process, we know you can come up with whatever reasons to justify it when you need to, but follow the rules, follow the steps.
You could find that the result would be the same, but the difference here is that you gave the opportunity for this individual to be heard. They gave their side of the story, essentially. And it's on the same precedent that we saw the nullification of a presidential election, whereby the court did not say that the result was wrong, but that the channel through which the transmission occurred had a problem.
Yes.
Now let us fix the channel and let's do it again. We're not arguing about the result, but we are saying that according to the Constitution, the channel that you use must be above reproach. Now, are we likening the same here and saying they could have still decided to impeach? They could have still said the impeachment would still go through if you go back. However, let us follow the tenets of the Constitution whereby it says you must be heard.
Yeah, thank you. You have actually summarized it very well.
Should be a lawyer.
Yeah, because everybody says that illegalities and irregularities must be removed from the process. And I'd like to buttress what Erica said. This fine of 50 million, Bob, is going to be paid by Mora, not by those senators.
Yeah.
So maybe regarding lawyers should go to court and insist that this 50 million, Bob, comes from their individual salaries.
Oh, they don't want 50 million.
Some sort of a check-off. Because, I mean, he's raised a very fundamental point. Public servants of rank will keep on making mistakes. Knowing that when there's a pecuniary penalty, it's still the taxpayer resources. Because this 50 million, Bob, if the clerk of the Senate decides to pay, it's not his money. It's money which is going to be allocated from a budget. It should come from their pocket.
Oh, by the way, even if he appeals, they're still going to give him this 50 million.
So the appellate court, of course, has the opportunity to overturn the entire judgment. They can decide to maintain it. They can enhance some of the whatever. So when he appeals, we don't know what might come out of it. The Court of Appeal might, surprise us and do
reduce it to 500,000.
and even say that no money damages should be awarded. But the Court of Appeal, of course, will look in a limited way at the facts, but mostly it will be looking at the application of the law. And at the Court of Appeal, the issue that will take center stage, I'm not a prophet, but I can try and predict, is this issue of fair hearing. One side will be arguing, you found that we were not heard fairly. Why then would our court continue to uphold that result? And like you summarized when we were just awarding you the law degree here, we should also juxtapose that with the 2013 presidential petition, place it alongside the 2017 one, and this impeachment process. Because it seems like we've come from here, we've risen a bit, and then we've gone back.
Right.
In 2013, the court said that there were irregularities and illegalities, but they did not affect the election, so we uphold the election. In 2017, the court said what do I summarize, that there were problems and we may not have an issue with the result, but the process was flawed and therefore we've nullified. Now we've gone back to 2013, where the process was problematic, but we want to live with the result. The danger is this coming election of 2027.
Wow.
Such a precedent has been set. And of course, the High Court does not bind the Supreme Court, but judicial reasoning can find its way.
If that's the language that's being spoken already, perhaps we need to be careful about where we're going.
Can find its way there. So we are very apprehensive of a situation where the election, is problematic. There are issues with the process, but then we are told that it doesn't change the result, just live with it.
Oh, well, maybe not one to live with, but gentlemen, the reason why we have these conversations is because it open our minds up to possibilities, and so it's good for us to all to be engaged. Dismas Mokua, Eric Morioki, thank you for being here with us this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.